When it comes to anime or animation or even comics, kind of getting rebooted or softly rebooted or softly retconned and changed up a little bit, if not completely, or taken in a direction you wouldn't expect it to, you know, you're bound to see some things, if not mostly characters, change as well, like dynamics and everything. And, you know, obviously, with me as a fan, I've seen this with the Sonic the Hedgehog comic under Archie Comics. When they had to softly reboot that series. Keep it somewhat in the same continuity, same issue numerization. Um, but obviously, they had to change things all around because of lawsuits and stuff. And some of the changes were for the better, some were not. Obviously, you had more personality and stuff added to certain characters and stuff, like Sally not being a good cook and really getting into a video game based on some covers that were meant for Christmas and all that, and so on, or basically Nicole being more you know more out of her box, out of her portable form and everything, and wanted to be more there, and also a little more comedic and stuff as well as also getting a super form, which I think was a hint of what was to come for all the other characters had the comic not been canceled. But anyway, we see these changes. We even see it when franchises, like I say, get rebooted. Kind of reframed a different way. TMNT is a good example of this, like with April O'Neil and even the Turtles themselves. And obscure characters that come back because they only made an appearance one time in the original cartoon, and now they're just abound in like Mona Lisa and such. And I think even Ninjara is going to fall into that category, as well as Usagi Yojimbo as well. Um, but like I said, it applies to everything, and you can't tell me there's not one show, anime or animated, and animated anime, live action or whatever. You can't tell me there's not one franchise, one show, one franchise that's had everything that's been adapted, from its original form to movies and such and everything, shows and comics and such. You can't tell me that it's never had a moment to where the characters in there are represented differently than when they normally, were. And when it comes to fairy tale, one character, especially in 100 Years Quest, really has changed. Now, I wouldn't say it's like a complete change, but it's definitely a far cry, in my opinion, than what she was originally presented as. Because in 100 Year Quest, you got the guild, if you will. You got Natsu, you got Lucy, you got Gary, you got Juvie, and such, and their two feline companions. You have them now acting more like a team, kind of like a, let's say, I wouldn't say well, kind of like, in a way, like Power Rangers, if you will, or TMNT, or the Freedom Fighters in Archie Sonic and Sonic ZM. You kind of have them acting like that now, which is a different take, but I guess nowadays the most popular thing, in my opinion, thanks to the MCU and even the DCU, mostly the MCU, is team dynamic. And it seems to work because now you're seeing the characters team together in a way that you've never seen before. But what's interesting though about Juvie, going back to her in 100 Year Quest, is the fact that in the original fairy tale, well, at least the ones I've seen, she was portrayed as being more serious at times. Like when she was basically going through that trope of, originally a bad guy or antagonist, slowly got turned to protagonist, thanks to the guild and everything, got her acceptance and everything. We've seen that. We've seen that throughout all of anime. Or not just anime, but through all of animation, anime, comics, and all that, all kinds of media. You know, one particular example is Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! And Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. You had Mai, she got defeated by Taya, you know, and even defeated by Joey, or at least went back and forth with Joey, and she became part of the team. Same with Alexa Rhodes in, Alexis Rhodes, if you will. She was an antagonist, got beat by Jaden, and became friends with him, if not became more, or at least hinted at it being more. And same with 5Ds. You know what you say. You know, and Akiza, if you will. Akiza was the Black Rose. He was the Black Witch. He beat her, broke the spell or whatever control was over her. You know, opened up her eyes, opened up her heart, and they became friends. She became part of the team because she had the one of the marks of the Crimson Dragon, and it's pretty much heavily implied that they became an item. You know, so, you know, Juvie was kind of in that same category with Fairy Tail. But even after she joined the other side and everything, you know, she still, you know, took what she did seriously. Even when she got, even when she would have her funny moments and everything, and she did. She had her funny moments, there's no doubt. She took her job seriously, you know. But if you were to compare Juvia, I think that's her name, Juvia. If you were to compare Juvia of that fairy tale to what you see in 100 Year Quest, you know, maybe it's me, but it's totally night and day. This Juvia is she's more funny, more outward, more comedic. I mean, she does take her job as a guild member seriously. You know, there's no doubt. She does take take her part of the team seriously. You know, her being a member of the team seriously, and she does care for her friends. But my goodness, again, it's like night and day with her character. It's like, again, in her first presentation, it's like, yeah, she had her funny moments and all that. Even when she got controlled by that rock guy temporarily, you know, she had her, little comedic moments and everything, becoming water and, basically, tormenting, because she was controlled by this rock guy before, Lucy was able to break the spell and get Juvia back to who she was. She had a little bit of comedicness there too. But what's interesting, though, like I said, is that if you, outside of that, if you, and outside of some of the other comedic moments you may have had, probably more so than I can probably count, from the original. In the original, she was always presented as being serious, always, very caring, very, willing to put her life before everybody else, even temporarily dying, before being revived. And that's the one thing about these animes too. These animes and mangas, just like with anything. Yeah, you can kill off a character, but if that character is a substantial part, a main substantial part of the show or the franchise, the death is only temporary. They'll always find a deus ex machina way to bring them back, and they do. I mean, that's not always the case, but I think if you look at it from a percentage standpoint, I say it's in the favor of these characters always being brought back, and Juvia was, one of those characters in the original fairy tale. But again, you take a look at how her presentation in some of the original mangas and the original fairy tale animes and OVAs and movies, and you compare it to 100 Year Quest. It's like a 100 Years Quest. It's like, it's like night and day. I mean, she is basically, if I was to make a comparison, when it comes to Gary Filibuster, most importantly, when it comes to him, she is like the Minerva Mink, if you will, of the team, of the show. Like, when Minerva sees a handsome guy, like she saw Wilfred in his werewolf form, in Moon over Minerva, or she saw her best friend's cousin at the end of Meet Minerva. She went gaga crazy for him, right? She even melted, both times. And Juvia is, in my opinion, kind of presented that way. I mean, heck, there's a recent episode and a recent chapter or a recent publication of the manga to where she gets absorbed by this tree demon. And yeah, it's played out as serious and everything, and she becomes basically part of this tree demon. He has her trapped like as part of her in front, right in the front, kind of like attached to his front, knowing that Gary, would be hesitant to attack, but But his thing, Gary Featherbuster, what he doesn't understand about him is he figures out, oh wait a minute, she's water, I control ice, perfect, perfect combination. And yeah, it's here where Fieldbuster does admit his feelings for her, does admit that, she's his love, she means the world to him. And this is enough to encourage her to help, help Gary free her and everything, and by turning her into ice. And she even gets a kick out of being ice. In the subtitles, she says she's, depending on how you view the subtitles, she says she's now Gary's ice, so she's Gary's ice. She's, his hammer. They even Gary calls her Juvia hammer, turns her into a little ice hammer. And then when she gets free, she splashes down as like a little pond of water. You see just her closed eyes and mouth, like an blissed, like a very, as she puts it, very blissed express. When she says in the subtitle, such bliss, but all you see is like her closed eyes and mouth, and that's it on her watery form. Like she basically melted, and technically she did. Gary basically melted her into a puddle of water before she reformed and everything. But here's what's interesting though too. When she would do that in the original, especially like I said, the time she got temporarily hypnotized by that rock guy before Lucy freed her. When she would do that, you wouldn't see, just her eyes and mouth, let's say olive oil at the end of Paulet's Woos, the 1956 Popeye cartoon. You would not, see that when she would do it in the original. Here she did. Here in 100 Year Quest she did. And to me, again, that just tells you her presentation and character is just night and day. It's like, if you were to look at the two, you would say, yeah, this is a different Juvia than the other one. In fact, if you want to use the whole multiverse theory, you could say this is an alternate version of Juvia in an alternate world of Fairy Tale, where the group's a team now, and they're going on this quest together, and all that, and so on. And, that could be, a very decent argument to make, and be a very winnable one, if you will. But yeah, this one is completely, this Juvia, the way they present her here is like night and day. I mean, there's even an episode, this is an episode that takes place before the girls get captured and temporarily turned into monsters and all that. Like Lucy gets turned into a Naga snake, and everything, and Izura gets turned into a Spider Woman and so on, and they get restored and everything. They get restored easily after Lucy gets restored and Wendy gets restored. They're all like reminded of who they are. Like, oh, okay, I didn't see. I was like, oh, okay, we're back to normal. And the woman that did this to them, it's kind of like surprised, like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But anyway, in the episode or so that precedes it, you have this one character called Brancia or something. She's a green-haired girl with like little antlers, cross-shaped antlers on her head, and she basically shrinks the girls. She shrinks Wendy. She shrinks Juvia. She shrinks Lucy. She shrinks two of their friends. I can't think of their names. The two girls with white hair. I think they're sisters and all that. And they shrink the female cat as well. And she shrinks the female cat, I should say, as well. After I think they take a spa bath. They're in like an outdoor spa bath. They're soaking in the spa. Which is common in anime and manga. And she ends up shrinking them. I don't know if she did it for funsies, to teach them a lesson or something, or whatever the case may be, but she shrinks them while they got towels around their bodies. And so what happens is they have to go around trying to figure out a way to get back to normal, or at least, well, not just get back to normal, but find this girl that did find this Brandius girl that did it to them. So they can get back to normal. And Lucy and Natsu do find them, and the moment they're so funny and comedic. She's like telling, it's like, depending on how you watch the scene, whether it's in the Japanese language or the dub, she's telling them, she's like, hey, because once they find her, once they find her, which is a lot easier than they thought, she's like, hey, you need to change this back like right now. And Brandy is just like, oops, sorry, I forgot to do that, and everything. And she decides, okay, no problem, I'll change it back. Snaps her fingers, and everything, and she changes them back. But before she does that, Lucy's like, nope, I don't mean that right now. No, not right now. I mean, she's trying to tell her, hey, yeah, you need to change this back right now, but not specifically now. But again, it goes over. This girl, Brandius, I think, doesn't think that, looks at it another way, snaps her fingers, and literally everybody gets restored to normal, almost in the most awkward of situations. Like Lucy, she's riding on Natsu's hair, trying to find this girl, and then when she gets restored, she literally falls on top of Natsu and everything, screaming and everything. And then there's a group of people that see this, and she's in shock. She's like, it's kind of fun. I get a kick out of that scene every time I see it. Then you have Wendy and that little cat girl. They get restored. When they're restored, they're like in the middle of town, and the cat girl's like, I'm back to normal, and Wendy's like, ooh. And then I think you got the two sisters walking off, and they're like, I wish it didn't happen here. And then the other sister's like, don't look. And then you see these two guys in the back going like, ooh, But then Juvia's predicament is probably the most, I would say the most, how do I put this? Juvia's, how she gets restored, her predicament when she gets restored is so, it's just so much of a, pretty much a, if you want, I'll put it this way, if you wanted proof that this Juvia is a lot more different than her original, if you wanted proof that this is a Juvia that, like I said, had the personality of a Minerva Mink, which is around Gary, then this moment would prove it. Because as they're looking around trying to find, because they split off into groups, right? So her and Wendy are trying to find, some answers. At least find somebody that can restore them. And they spot Gary. He's eating, right? He's eating something, I think, I guess ramen or something. Tofu, I don't really know. And Juvia spots him, and she's like, and Wendy's like, did you find something? Did you find somebody who can restore this? And Juvia is like, no, I found something better. A giant Gary, and everything. She literally leaps at him, starts crawling up his body, and Gary starts feeling something on his body, and he turns his head like really in shock. Like he turns his head because he's feeling something crawling up his body. He turns, and then he sees the little Juvia jumping towards him, and he's like, ah! And literally, as she's jumping towards him, he has his mouth open, and she ends up landing in his mouth, and he swallows her. Yeah, he sucks her in like a spaghetti noodle, because you see her legs sticking out, and he literally sucks her in like a spaghetti noodle, or she pushes herself in, she slides herself in. I'm going to go with the fact that she kind of pushes and slides herself in, because he has this expression on his face as her legs are sticking out and they're going slowly in, like, he can't believe what's going on here. He can't believe what she's doing and everything. So I'm going to go with the fact that she slides herself in, she pushes herself in, and then she lies right on top of his tongue, saying she's inside his mouth and she's happy about it. And she's comfortable as well, and it's, and that she can turn herself into water, right? So you gotta wonder, because they only showed clips of these people, were only showing these clips like for funny moments, or showing like Vore in media, that's VORE, vor in media. And I don't know if she turns into water or anything when she's in there to be like his water, be part of him a little bit. But again, because they didn't show that, I think you got to look at Crunchyroll to watch both the English dub and the Japanese language. But but again, if you want a perfect example of how different this Juvia is, compared to the original, here you go. So, I don't know how she's presented further on in 100 Year Quest. I haven't read the manga, and I don't have Crunchyroll right now, although I should look into it. But then again, you hear all these reports and everything about Crunchyroll, and I even did a video replying to Kitsu Anime, who I do recommend you check out, and their video on it. And the fact that Crunchyroll is not doing so well because people would rather be pirating the anime. But as I said, there's risk about doing that too, because sometimes you might think you're going to get it and it looks like you're going to get it, and then you click on the video player and then it takes you to another page, and either that's a page trying to sell you stuff that you don't want, or it's a page trying to infect you with a virus because it says your computer has a virus. So it's a risky situation. So to me, I'd rather just do the $7.99, if you will. But anyway, $7.99 that is. But anyway, to get back to what I was saying. Again, I don't know how she's presented for the rest of the manga, and based on 100 Year Quest, or how she's going to be presented later on in the anime episodes that are adapted from them, because I think they're kind of adapted either loosely or straightforward. I think they're kind of loose, I think they're kind of loose, if you will, like any manga or any adaptation from a reading material. It's kind of like 75% straightforward, but there's also that 25% that's different, like just original enough to differentiate from its source. So again, I don't know how she's presented in the rest of the manga, or how she'll be presented in the anime, when they adapt those stories. But again, this Juvia Lockser is so different in 100 Year Quest compared to the original, in my opinion. And I know I'm not alone in thinking that. I'm not. And again, you want a good example. Look at when she basically is shrunk down and she goes into Gary Filibuster's mouth. Look at her blissful reaction is when she's freed from that tree demon and she just splashes down to the little pond of water like she's completely melted, and all you see is her eyes and her face, a la olive oil at the end of Pauline's Woos Woos, the 1956 Popeye cartoon. And you'll kind of get an idea, a summary, if you will, of why, as I said, the way she acts towards Gary Filibuster or thinks about him is very Minerva Mink-like, from when Minerva would do the same thing in her cartoons with, the Fabio werewolf version of Wilford and her best friend's cousin. So anyway, though, that's just my thought on it. And actually, I kind of like what they did here. I will say that sometimes a change in a character's personality or presentation kind of helps them. Not saying that Juvia Lockser was never a popular character. For some reason, I was always drawn to that character, and I guess it's maybe because she can turn into water and everything. So, and that's always been like, I guess a trope or a power that people would put upon the female cast, or a certain female cast member. But I also think because she was presented as a badass originally, Eziar has taken that up. In my opinion, she's taken that up big time. But she was always presented as a badass. So honestly, we'll see what they have planned for her in the future when it comes to the 100 Year Quest manga and anime. But yeah, to me, this Juvia compared to the original, it's night and day, guys. It's night and day, and I actually do like this version of her. I've liked her, like I said, I've liked her overall, but I think this version is really more of what she needs to be. In a way, she can still be a badass, but let her be a little bit more humanized. Let her be a little bit more comedic, if you will, because again, I think if there's one character you would at least expect from that, it would be her. So anyway, though, guys, that's all I'm going to say. Let me know what your thoughts are. How do you feel about Juvia Lockser and her presentation in 100 Year Quest? Do you enjoy it? Do you think it's a better presentation than her original presentation in Fairy Tail? the OG fairy tale and all that. Let me know. Love to hear your thoughts on it. Comment down below. Like the video. Super chats are available in the live chat if you want to comment there and help there. Also, guys, check me out on all the audio, video podcast affiliates. Links are in the description. You can check me out at iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Audible, Pandora, Radio Public, Overcast. You name it. If it's got a podcast, I'm probably there as well. Also, check me out at VENMO at BW Roses, Odyssey.com at BW Roses.5, Rumble.com at BW Roses. Also, check me out at DeviantArt.com at BVW1939, InkBuddy.net at BW Roses, Patreon.com at BW Roses. Also, check out the Venmo and the Cash App to help out, to help out there as well. Also, guys, check me out at my Teespring store, merchandise, to find merchandise there, I should say, you can't find anywhere else. Also, you can follow me on Twitter /X at BW Roses and at Blue Sky at BW Roses. But guys, let me know what you thought. Oh, by the way, also find me at twitch.tv as well. You can find me there as well. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are overall. Comment down below, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel. But give me your thoughts. How do you feel about this new presentation of Juvia Lockser in 100 Year Quest compared to her original presentation in the OG fairy tale? Do you think it's for the better? Do you think it's for the worse? Do you think it humanizes her more? Do you think, when it comes to like Gary Fieldbuster, it makes her the Minerva Mink of the group? Let me know. And until then, guys, talk to y'all later.